Good morning, everyone. As we begin reading the fourth book of the Torah, the book of Bamidbar in the desert, we think about what may have been considered the greatest tragedy in Jewish history. A nation finally emancipated, freed from the shackles of slavery after hundreds of years, have this great hope and promise that they will be taken to the promised land, to the land of Israel. And tragically, after countless mistakes, including the golden calf and the episode of the spies, they are all denied entry into the land of Israel, including their great leader Moses and Aaron and Miriam. And that entire generation died in the desert, never reaching the promised land. And we can look at this book that we're starting and saying, what a tragic event. All that hope, all that promise, never realized, never materialized. But there's another way to view this book of Bamidbar. And that's the words of the prophet, where God says, Zacharti la chesed ne'urayach. I will forever remember the kindness of your youth. Ahavat klulotayach, the love of my bride. Lechtech acharai bamidbar, that you followed me into a barren wasteland. Be'eretz lo zerua, unfertile, uncharted territory. God says the Jewish people going into the desert with complete reliance and trust in God is the ultimate act of kindness that God sees in the union of the Jewish people and Almighty God. That with nothing but the bread on their back, the dough on their back, they trusted God and followed Him into the desert. And therefore the desert reminds us of the beauty, the kindness, the faith and the trust of the Jewish people in God. But furthermore, when you think about that generation, by no fault of their own were they not capable of entering into the land of Israel. They were a generation of slaves. Although they physically were free, they still maintained and contained their slave mentality. And therefore they were not able to act in a way that they could create their own sovereignty, their own independence in their own land, and build a country, a nation, an infrastructure in the land of Israel. And therefore God recognized that they're not the generation that will have to build Eretz Yisrael, the land of Israel. And therefore they would all have to naturally die out in the desert. And it would only be their children, the next generation that was raised in freedom, witnessing the revelation at Mount Sinai, witnessing the daily miracles of the manna from heaven and the water from the rock and the clouds of glory, that would have the sufficient faith and trust in God to be able to have the courage and the strength to go and build a nation of Israel. And viewed from that perspective, that generation who left Egypt, who did not go into the land of Israel, they sacrificed everything to be the foundation and the building blocks for the entry to the land of Israel. So often we don't recognize and appreciate enough the foundation of our own blessings and success. We forget and fail to realize that it was our parents and our grandparents who preceded us, many of them who gave everything up to immigrate to a new country so that their children could have a better life. And that was the kindness of the generation of the Jews who went into the desert. Although not able to realize their dream of entering the promised land, they realized it for their children and all future generations, including our present-day generation till today. And indeed, this Wednesday is Yom Yerushalayim, the day that in 1967 we returned to Jerusalem, fulfilling a 2,000-year promise of L'Shana Haba, next year in Jerusalem. It's a story that happened recently in Israel. There was a young man, 32 years old. His parents were going up to Kibbutz Lavi for Shabbat. So they asked him, why don't you come and join us? He said, fine, I'll drive up, I'll meet you there, we'll spend Shabbat together. He was running out of gas about 15 minutes away from Kibbutz Lavi. So he pulled him to a gas station. As he's pumping his gas, he sees a woman in the gas station off to the side. She looks distraught. She's standing next to her car. He goes over and says, everything okay? She says, no, my car broke down. I pulled into the station, overheated. I don't know what to do. My husband and children are home. I live like an hour away, and I have to get home for Shabbat, and there's only about another hour and a half to Shabbat. And I don't know what to do. He says, listen, I'm going to Kibbutz Lavi, 15 minutes away. You take my car and go home. I'll get it back from you after Shabbat, and I'll call a car service to take me to the kibbutz. She said, I don't even know you. He says, don't worry, I trust you. Take my car. You need to get home to your family. She thanks him profusely, takes the car. He gets a ride, a taxi to the kibbutz. After Shabbat, he calls her. They make up that tomorrow morning They'll meet at the same gas station. She'll come with her husband, return the car. He'll come with his parents and get the car. When they get to the gas station, she gives him back the keys to the car and thanks him. I can't believe how kind, how generous. You don't even know me and you gave me your car. And then she turns to his parents who drove him there and say, you have such a wonderful son. God bless you for having raised such a terrific son. And then she says, is there anything I can do for you? And the young man says, no, nothing. It's okay. I don't need anything. You're good. And then the parents chime in and say, well, yes, there's something you can do for us. Our son is single. He's not married. Maybe help him find a shidduch. Well, she says, really? You're single? Such a terrific guy like you is not married? She goes home and posts on Facebook the entire story. Said, I met this 32-year-old guy in a gas station. He gave me his car. He has such a kind heart. And he's single. If anyone's interested, message me. Suddenly she gets flooded, dozens of messages from young women, from mothers about their daughter. She starts to go through all the profiles, and one particular girl seems like a very special girl. She meets with her, interviews her, sees that she's very suitable, speaks the shidduch, the match. And sure enough, they got married last week in Israel and will build a beautiful home. The book of Bamidbar is about kindness, God's kindness to Jewish people, the Jewish people's kindness to future generations. And that's the message as we go through this book. The foundation of the world, Olam Chesed Yibana, is built on kindness. Kindness is the foundation of our lives. Have a wonderful day.